where Debbie is.
We're just trying to record him when he comes.
You didn't hear his... ring his bell.
It's only me, sorry.
Just do it.
Are you doing sound and vision? Oh my God, they're so cheap.
I don't understand why.
You getting it? You getting it? You getting it? That's fine.
We learned in rock school at home that moss doesn't go on a rolling stone. How do you feel about that?
I never was at rock school.
But I learned it at rock school at home.
Is that what they say? I don't know. You can get some, maybe some fungus. I don't know, but you know, what can I say about a thing like that? It's you know, you just got to keep moving. You know? Yeah, anything will grow on something if it stays still. So you have to keep moving.
That's the secret about things.
Fast move.
What triggered you to make the LP on your own, finally?
The fact that I'd found the right band, the right group of musicians to work with, that were all friends with each other, that are friends of mine. So they weren't just like a hired help, you know. They're just how much for you, how much, you know. They were friends, and they were very dedicated to the task of doing it. And also that I need to work. I need to work very much. Otherwise, I go mad. You know, I'm infinitely preferable to work than to go mad.
Definitely so. It has a very raw sound to it. I mean, it seems you avoided most of the technicality that's available nowadays.
I wouldn't say I avoided it. I've used it in different ways. I've used it, but still managed to keep the edge and the roughness that I need to make my sound. I'm trying to use technology as a tool instead of just playing with toys, you know. I mean, a lot of it to me is a lot of kids in a big toys shop, you know, just sort of saying, oh, here it is, let's, you know, push this button and push this one, just because it's there. I think that technology is something, is a tool, it's not a plaything. No?
You're not too crazy about the Stock Aitken and Waterman style of today's music.
I'm not impressed by pushing buttons to try and get a drum sound. I'm not impressed by sampling other people's old records. To me, it's sterile and old-fashioned. You know, it's been done. That was that record then. To me, it's cheap.
Your latest performance with Chuck Berry was, I think, a fine experience for the moviegoers, but maybe you had a different experience on stage.
It was a fine experience for me. I didn't expect it to be easy. Just because something's difficult to do doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it, as long as you know it's going to be difficult. Yeah. And I'm used to working with difficult people. I work with Mick Jagger. Chuck Berry, I have more experience of working with difficult people than most. And also I thought, well, if I can handle that, then only the idea of making God's first album would be maybe more difficult. You know? So it was a test for myself as well as something that I really wanted to do and in a way had to do. You know.
You feel you paid your debts to?
Well, to a certain extent, yes. I feel that wasn't the main thing. To me, it was an opportunity to make, for one time, not just a record, but also on film, at least one example of good live Chuck Berry music. And I figured that this was maybe the last time that the possibility would arise to do that, because Chuck doesn't really take too much care about his live performances. So as long as the band is the cheapest one in town, that's what you're going to hear him with, because Chuck believes that Chuck's enough. He doesn't need a band. And I rehearsed the band and Chuck Berry for almost 2 weeks, and Chuck believes that it's the band that's being rehearsed. Wouldn't occur to Chuck that in actual fact it's him that's being rehearsed. That would never occur to him, you see.
How do you see the outlook for the almost vintage combination of sex, drugs, and rock and roll in 1988?
It's a neat phrase, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And but I've been doing this gig for a long time, and it to me that's just it's a good PR phrase, but it has very, very little to do with the day-to-day life of making music and making records. It's a neat phrase to encapsulate an image, but it's if it was that easy, I'd be very happy, but it isn't that easy, you know.
In the past, your name has been very much associated with busts and different sanctions from society.
True.
You don't go to prisons anymore.
No, I sign autographs for cops now. But no, I'm not. I'm no longer a target for those people. And anyway, the people that did, for one reason or another, try and put me in jail, usually did it for the wrong reason. And in fact, some of them are actually in jail now, and I'm not. You know, it's justice will out. You know, one has to believe that. And I was just an easy target for ambitious policemen. Yeah.
But it seems now that, for instance, in the United States during the elections, that the war on drugs has become a major issue.
You'll always have a war on drugs when there's an election in America. The last election was fought on the same issue. And in actual fact, you did have no war on drugs at all. In fact, they were monitoring a war with Nicaragua, and they would let drugs into the country in order that the planes could turn around and ship some guns and supplies back to their so-called freedom fighters. I don't know one way or the other. I don't know much about Nicaragua, and certainly living in America, you only get a one-sided story. You know, but I mean, anybody that hangs around and kisses Noriega, some dodgy company, you know. So war on drugs, yeah, you'll have one while this election's going on, and then they'll forget all about it again. Yeah.
But you didn't have an easy time getting off the hook yourself at one point.
It's never easy to get off the hook, but to me it was a personal thing that I got into. It wasn't my idea to splash it all over the newspapers, all over the world, that I took drugs or anything. It was something that I felt that I had to deal with personally. They felt that they had to make it a certain cause, you know. I mean, as I say, I was a very easy target because, yes, I was taking drugs, but a lot of the drugs I got actually accused of having weren't actually mine. They brought them with them. And, I mean, I had my drugs. They wouldn't even bother to look for them. They would just what's this? You know, I mean, it's you learn a certain amount of things about the fragility of society and civilization by going through things like that. And really, you just try and learn lessons, you know, and you learn things that otherwise you wouldn't even bother about. But I found out. Right?
What kind of drugs would you recommend for a young, sane person?
I don't recommend drugs for anybody. It's totally up to anybody by themselves. What I recommend for people is to learn their own capabilities, their own limitations. And, I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend taking drugs for anybody, you know, especially not for Ben Johnson.
No. We had another phrase saying the greatest rock and roll band in the world, and I believe that you had the feeling sometimes when you got off stage that you really did something which was satisfied you.
At any different night, some band is the greatest rock and roll band in the world. Some nights, yeah, maybe it was the Rolling Stones. Other nights we knew we definitely weren't. It would depend on the situation, on the show. So you tried it, you do your best. Some nights something takes over the whole stage and you're looking at your fingers and you're saying, this can't be me, it's too good, I don't play like this, but you have really no control on it. And you say, well, tonight we were visited by the spirit and maybe we were the greatest rock and roll band just for that night. But some nights you know damn well that some other band down the road did a lot better job than you did. Yeah.
You don't feel you have a kind of championship you have to defend?
No, it's not run on those lines, is it? No, music isn't run on, you don't get a gold medal. You get gold records now and again, but it's all promotion. That's why I'm talking to you now.
But last time we saw you in Scandinavia, I saw you in Gothenburg.
Gothenburg, yeah.
I mean, it was very much you who got the band on the road again, wasn't it? So.
Well, I like to work the road, so in a way I do. I miss the road now because I haven't worked the road since '82, except for jumping up on stage in a club here and there. And if somebody says, "Hey, come on, play," I'll be there like a shot, because I really think it's necessary for a musician to play face to face to the audience, and I think that gives you more incentive and more ideas to produce better music. And which is why, to me, if you write songs, you make records, and you don't go on the road, then you're isolating yourself from the people that are going to listen to the music. So so you're really chickening out. You have to work the stage. You have to work to people face to face. It's the other part of the job, and it'll help the other part of the job.
But what's your idea now? I mean, do you have any ambition of getting on the road again?
Yeah, I want to take this band that I've worked on this album on the road. I'm going to play some good theatres to start with, because it's a new job for me, and I want to figure out what kind of show I can do and how I can do it, and I want to do it in places where I can guarantee that the band is going to sound real good. I don't want to play open-air places where you never know if it's going to rain or the wind is blowing this way and the sound disappears to some other town 5 miles away. But I certainly want to, I'm going to take these guys on the road. We're certainly going to do it. In fact, they'll kill me if I don't.
It's going to be called the X-Pensive.
I don't know if we're going to stick with it. That's the name's kind of sticking, but to us it was just our own code word for ourselves while we were making the album, and it was the name written on all the tape boxes, because you don't write Keith Richards and leave a bunch of tape boxes lying around in studios, because you know that somebody's going to go in there and bootleg it. So you make up the Stones. Various times have been called, known as the Bulldogs, the green-shoed London Cowboys, anything except the Rolling Stones. So you make up a code name every time, So I don't know if that name is going to stick, but everybody in the X-Pensive Winos, as they're now known, is very proud of being in that band, no matter what name we end up calling it. It certainly won't be the Keith Richards Orchestra.
How do you go about life? I mean,
I get up in the morning and I breathe, and I put some food in, and I drink a little water, take the dog for a walk. I live as normally as possible. Yeah.
With all the time in the world and money to go around.
Money is, to me, it's very nice to have, but an awful lot of it goes on lawyers. Their overheads are enormous.
Having used it for so many years, you had to.
If we were talking privately, I could give you a whole list, but I'm not on film, baby.
It seems after some time, I mean, you stick with some basic things. I mean, you don't, go into.
Bless you, darling.
Enormous. What was the rest about enormous?
I can't remember what we were talking about now.
I don't know. Well, talking about the band, I mean, What do you think about these big aid concerts or rock against this and that shows which has been going on?
I feel very ambiguous about those things because for myself, I don't think that rock and roll music or popular music's main strength and main effect is done in that way. I don't think by making a few big shows and making a bit of money to send to somebody and preaching to people is the strength of this music. I think the strength of this music is far more indirect, far more subtle. And my best illustration of this could maybe be, this is maybe one of the ingredients, the reason you have glasnost in Russia now, is maybe 30 years of this music actually getting through the Iron Curtain and these people growing up and realizing that there is another way of life. And despite the wall and it's like, to me, also very much like Jericho, Joshua, the trumpets, beep, 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 and the walls fall down. To me, that is the power of music, and it's not necessarily going around. And also, I question the motives of some of, not necessarily the people that play on the shows, although some of them I have doubts about too, but also some of the people that set them up. It's too questionable for me to be really happy with the idea of it. You know, I mean, some people played the free Nelson Mandela show, couldn't even spell his name, and he'd never heard of the Nelson Mandela. It was just for them an opportunity to get on worldwide satellite TV, and I find that, to me, makes me uneasy. It's using somebody else's plight, very real trouble. Guy's been in jail for 20-odd years, if not more, and they're just riding on his back to get on TV. They don't give a damn about who Nelson Mandela is, and I find that sick, and I'm not too happy about, as I say, I know the music business, and it isn't that pure. At the same time, I do admire the basic motives of a lot of this stuff, and I think that it's right that people should do a few things for nothing, for good causes, but I'm not happy with the way that most of these things are set up.
I think that in the days of Rolling Stones, you played only once in Eastern Europe. You played in Warsaw once.
We played Warsaw. We also played. Well, it depends if you consider Yugoslavia. We've played there too. But yeah, they were never too happy about having the Rolling Stones over there. They figured that, you know.
Would you play over there if you?
Of course, if they, I play anywhere. I want to see all the world before I.
Will you play in Beirut for peace or in Israel for that?
I'll play anywhere. I don't want to offend one section of people by playing. You know, since you mentioned Beirut and Israel, if I played one, I'd play the other. Probably die in the attempt, but you can die anywhere.
But you said before, when we talked about growing moss on a rolling stone, that you have to keep moving. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, since you're not...
What you do is you stand up and you put one leg in front of the other. That's how you keep moving.
That's right. But most people, they have to do...
What do they have
fairly ordinary things. Some people even have hobbies. Do you have hobbies?
Hobbies, yes. I love to draw. I love to read. I like to play with my kids. I don't sort of have a little workshop and do fretwork and carpentry. I don't have the time for that. But in spare moments, I read and I draw, and I cultivate friends. That's a hobby of mine.
But at the age of 44, you have 2 young children now.
Yeah, I have 2 young children and 2 teenage children. Sorry.
And it's nice?
Of course, children are always nice. Children teach you the bits about your life that you've forgotten. And also they show you the promise of what people can be before they get corrupted by society and by the day-to-day way that other people, people conduct themselves. They stop you from getting too hard, too cynical, too sarcastic. So they introduce an element of innocence into your life which you otherwise wouldn't have.
But in a way, performing today, that would mean playing for kids who were not even born when you had the hit with Satisfaction.
I know this is very hard for me to absorb the fact that there are millions of people now on the face of this earth where the world is all, the Rolling Stones have always been part of their world. That's very difficult for me to comprehend in a way, but I understand that it's there, and there's air, there's food, there's mum and dad, and there's the Rolling Stones. It's almost as if as far as a lot of younger people are concerned, the Rolling Stones have been there forever. Whether they want them to be there or not is another thing, but it's a fact. I have to try and keep reconciling myself with that and realizing it. Because they certainly weren't there for the first 18 or 19 years of my life. There was no such thing. I grew up, but I understand that it's true,
What would have first priority, playing with a band on your own, or if you could get the others of the Rolling Stones together?
I wouldn't want to put it in a matter of priorities. The priority thing is unimportant to me. What would now be important to me, having done this and put this band together and made this record, is that I'm quite prepared to do both. I would like to be able to do both. I didn't do this one record and just say, right, I've done my solo record, boom, close the shop, go back to the Stones. You grow up, I think that's the idea, is to grow up, It's very hard to pretend to be 25 when you're 44, And I think that having started something like this and found another great band to work with, that I want to keep them both together, and just, so then it's a matter of, certainly not me, because I'm no good at paperwork and schedules and logistics and stuff, but saying, figuring out how to do that, And that's certainly what would be my aim.
Where do you prefer to live these days?
If I had my way, I'd live in Jamaica or some Caribbean island all the time, but you can't live in places like that and do what I do, so I try and split my time. When I have to work, I usually end up in New York, and after all, I'm married to a New York girl, so there's a lot of New York family there, but as I say before, really, I'd like to live everywhere. I want to see some parts of the world that I haven't. There's still a few square acres around that I haven't seen, including most of Asia and Russia and Eastern Europe and Japan. Because I've always found it incredibly interesting that one of the main things that this life has given me is the ability and the opportunity to travel and find out that everybody's the same, which is one of the reasons I wear this ring.
Which ring?
This ring, because everybody, once you just take the skin off, we all look like this.
This one. So when do you think we get a chance of seeing you anywhere near Copenhagen?
Depends which way the wind blows. I want to take the boys, the Winos, first into some theatres in America just to try it out. If that works out as I hope it will, and then I'd put it on a plane and bring it to Europe, and then anything's possible.
Okay, thank you. kan jag prata med honom lite grann till. Så kan jag ta lite.
Yeah. He's just going to do some cutaways, so we just...
I understand. I know the gig, man. I know the gig. Yeah, blah blah blah. Blah.
Oh, yeah. You find it terrible to do promotion, or is it okay?
No, I find the idea of it terrible, but once I start actually doing it, every morning I wake up, I say I have to answer these questions again. But once you get into it, I get into it, and everybody's different, and I enjoy meeting people. And,
Well,
say, okay, let me see what
Yeah.
questions this one's going to fling at me.
Well, I don't pretend to be an expert in all the history of the Rolling Stones, so I wouldn't try to...
I'm certainly not an expert at it.
1966, what did you do on that day? And I was like,
You'd be talking to the wrong person anyway. I mean, I'm not the historian. Once it's done, it's done.
yeah.
To me.
What's your own self-image then, if you could say so?
Self-image, I don't know. I've got a public image, so I don't really think about self-image. I just try and live as normal a life as possible as what I want to do. I have a lot of friends. I enjoy sitting around. I enjoy playing dominoes with my dad. My self-image of myself, I realize that there's a certain amount of the Keith Richards sort of rebel, outlaw, drug junkie, freak, rock and roll, sex and drugs. I understand that that's there, but it's only a part. And I find that your image is like a shadow. It's something that's always 10 or 15 years behind what you actually are. Images just sort of stick. They've got a lot of glue on them, and it's hard to get them off. Images they're like acne.
It's not a problem running away from your shadow, I mean.
No, I try and ignore this. Being a star is like very... it's something that doesn't really interest me, except that I realise that it's a part of my job, that it goes along with the job, but it's not the most important part of my job.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, for instance, if you talk to Charlie Watts, there's a man who's incredibly embarrassed by ever becoming a rock and roll star or a pop star, because his image of himself was to be like some hip jazz drummer in New York, so to find himself screamed at suddenly, just because he happened to fall in with this band, to him was incredibly embarrassing. He felt very, that it's very juvenile, and that and also you do have to grow up. Somewhere down the line you got to grow up, or it can kill you if you don't.
Probably right. Okay, anyway, I'm missing my planes.
Join the club. I'm one of the great Miss the Plane clubs. I'm the president of that club.
Would you mind doing a special for us?
No,
Get back to the studio, because when we're ending this interview...
What do you want me to do? Show me what...
It's just going to say something like, hello from London, and back to the studio in... Then comes a difficult word. Our program is called Elevator.
Well, write it for me.
Yeah.
So I can look at it and I'll get it down. It's not too hard. Elevator.
It's
like elevator with an N on the end.
Elevator, but ours just is called Elevator.
So is that the last letter is an N? Elevator.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy.
Elevator.
Torren.
Elevator.
Write it down for me. Just write it down. All I got to do is look at the vowel movement and the consonants, and then it's no problem. Elevator. So, ready?
We do a fairly close up for that.
I need baby. You just and
Okay, this is Keith Richards from London. Back to the studio now, and Elevator.
could you keep?
I'll keep looking in, right? Yeah, because I'm looking in to see if I said the word right. Yeah? Okay. Take two. Right, this is like walking in the door. Okay, this is Keith Richards in London. And now we go back to the studio and elevatoren. Got the nice phone at the end.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. No, Vince is finished now, so
Yeah, if you want to get back to Copenhagen tonight.
oh,
Going for the Cadillac look now.
you got a good look at the rain.
Yes. I have one more, no?
Where do you get it from?
I'll take the show. Shut up. There's a friend of mine made this for me. He's a good shot. He made this and this, yeah.
What's the other one?
This is to remind me about being arrested. This is a Jagger that is winking at you. He's got one eye open and one eye closed.
You want to see mine?
It's very nice and very, very, very Scandinavian.
Yeah, it's sticked out of the ground.
Mm.
It's 1,000 years old.
Yeah?
So
Want to see this?
Some Viking went.
This is 300 BC, Alexander the Great.
I can't be that.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's
You
what I
want some
saw.
coin? This is 2,300 years old. And this camel, to remind me that I'm humping to please. And this is represents the fact that I got married.
That you're not married.
Of course I'm married. That's what it is. Yeah, I've been married. I'll be 88. I got married on my 40th birthday. I got married on my birthday in 1983. So I'm nearly 5 years married now. Amazing. And this is the claptometer. This is something I won from Eric Clapton because we had a discussion one night, and I can talk longer than Eric. And eventually, Eric gave me the watch in order so that he could go to bed.